morning, Gavin White here from Autotech Recruit again, episode 5 of Autotech Talks, and I'm lucky to have with me this morning is Ben Stockton, Managing Director of our Virtual Academy. Good morning, Ben. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Gav. Yeah, all's well. How's things with you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Keeping busy, mate. So I would imagine, given your line of business at the moment, you may have seen a slight increase, mate, or been busy.
Yeah, it's keeping us out of mischief. Yeah, we've seen quite an increase in our subscribers, monthly plans, and we've done a few specials with a distributor on 2-month windows and 3-month windows of access to the content. So that's been good. There's also been probably a bit of a wider thought process going on throughout the industry regarding the power of online training too. So the phone calls from corporates has picked up, and it's going pretty well. But to say it's going well today doesn't mean the same thing as what it's going to be like in a month's time in these crazy times. But you just got to kind of make hay while the sun shines in these scary times.
Yeah, certainly with people being furloughed at the moment, it's obviously, it's using that downtime to not only keep your employees engaged and make them feel that you're still thinking about them, but it's a good opportunity for them also to do some learning, because that is obviously one of the key areas under furlough that you can still do is training, isn't it? So absolutely,
yeah, and we certainly see some very high numbers of usage on the site throughout the days and the weekends at the moment, for sure.
Good. Well, just to give some perhaps some content on for the listeners on this particular episode, what we're going to talk about today, and going to have something with a little bit of a different twist to it for people that have watched the previous 4 episodes of. We started off with Andy Sava, and then moved to Quentin Hurt from Geekfer, Anthony McAteer. More recently, Carl Davis from Coachworks Consulting. Ben's going to do a bit about talk about our virtual academy, why it exists, and its rapid growth over the last few years. Something we've been looking at as an organisation ourselves at Autotech Recruit for a while now, and I've scaled each corner of the country to try and find the best e-learning platform out there. And obviously working with a lot of vehicle manufacturers as we do, I can honestly say, looking at a lot of the different learning platforms that are out there, Ben's platform is exceptional, high quality, the content is fantastic. But I'll leave that for the moment. I'll let you talk about your product and services, Ben. So, do you want to give the listeners a quick overview about your existence, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go on from there? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So, there's a team of 5 experts, all in their individual fields within the business. We've from a technical side, I'm technical myself. I know one end of a spanner to the other a little bit, and we started off in training many years ago. I personally started off in about 2003. Did a lot of face-to-face training and course writing and what have you. It took me around the world a fair bit as well, which was nice. And really over those years of developing our skills in training, it became clear that there's an opportunity in online training delivery. There's a couple of key reasons behind it, and one is cost. Going off on sending your team away really on a 1-day, 2-day training course is a hugely expensive process. It's a big investment. And the classroom side of that activity can be improved upon, and I see video as the way of particularly improving the classroom side. And you can bring a fair amount of workshop side into online as well. So the one angle is that we're able to deliver very high quality training in a very cost effective way, because of course our classroom is big. It's many thousands of delegates at any one time. So that allows us to keep the costs down. And then, one of the other sides of it, which was a really interesting study that a customer conducted a little while ago around knowledge retention. And what we found with the study is that all of us forget a shockingly large amount of information from a 1 day, 2 day training course, which is hugely traumatic from an ex face-to-face trainer's perspective, because I was quietly confident that my delegates were hanging on my every word and remembered the whole thing, but unfortunately human nature doesn't necessarily work quite like that. So for that reason, we thought that the advantage of going down an online video based route is that you can watch it first of all to understand it and comprehend it. In fact, we recommend watching videos twice in a row to really allow it to make sense. But then when you are hit with a particular technical problem, for the sake of argument, and it's 9 months down the road or whatever, then you're able to spin it up on your mobile phone and then remind yourself. The videos are nice short little 10-15 minute chunks, and that way you're able to do something that we call relearn on demand. And I think that's quite a powerful tool. So that resulted in us coming up with the idea and what have you. And then the end of 2016, that was when we went for it and got our little studio here, our humble studio, and just began making content. We're now up to somewhere in the region of 175 different chapters on the site. In fact, we released 6 a couple of days ago, so whatever, we're in the 180s now.
My email was pinging last week and this week with some new updates that were coming through. Yeah, so I think battery being one of them, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, battery. I mean, what a subject. When we were asked to go down the battery route, I mean, one of the biggest causes of breakdowns throughout the UK is batteries, and it's one of those subjects that's quite heavily overlooked. And I have to admit, I've classed myself in that as well, because when we were asked about it by I was quietly confident that we'd knock it out in an hour's worth of content or something, and we've probably ended up with several more versions of that. But it's nice, really, because if you can get those fundamentals in early, then that allows us to build from that subject. And in fact, from a writing perspective, from a video perspective, we've got one more video on batteries, on jump starting. Quite an interesting subject, that one, actually, because there's a lot of stories out there regarding jump starting causing problems and ECUs falling over. And we put a fair few phone calls through to some of our colleagues throughout the industry, and everyone's heard the stories, but no one could really nail the issue down to it. So we thought, okay, let's nail that. So we have. So that's the next one that's coming out, and that proves all of the technical points around that procedure. And then that's going to lead us to what we're currently writing now, which is power management, and power management systems have been around for quite some time, but they're again one of these subjects that's potentially quite heavily overlooked, and there are some massive implications around diagnostics there. So that's a nice little suite that's coming up. We're excited about that, because we're quite sad. We get excited about these sorts of things big time. And then following on from that is communication networks too. And we've got a little bit on communication at the moment, but now's the time for us to really go to town on that and explain the interactions between the different systems on a vehicle. So that's our heads up for the future. And as we release new content, that just means that it's a better value for money option for all of our subscribers. And everyone gets a chance to gain the new content if they're active straight away. And away you go, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. I'm sure we've got an indefinite amount of content available to just keep on knocking out. But luckily for us, we love it. It's our passion. I've always been a proper car related bobble hat, and this allows me to feed my obsession beautifully, which is wonderful. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, good. Now, I mean, that's the one thing of how long we know one another now, a couple of years, and you can just get that in spades off you. Is the passion that you have for the industry, and the effort and passion you put into obviously learning and in your platform, it just comes over in spades. So just going back to some of the content and how it works, we're lucky enough today, Ben's actually going to do a slightly different, instead of me just asking lots of questions and on Ben's what he's feeling about the industry and COVID-19 and that particular subject at the moment. Ben's kindly going to demo for us, and we've got some announcements to make today, but just going back to the current state of the industry at the moment. I mean, you work with many, very much like ourselves actually, you work with a lot of different clients in the automotive space. What's the general feeling out there from your point of view?
Hard times, very, very hard times. As we all know, the cars aren't out there. The customers aren't coming in anywhere near as much as they can. There's a lot of garages that are either totally closed or perhaps purely the garage owner, or maybe the garage owner plus one more is coming in with everyone else on furlough at the moment. There's a big knock-on effect regarding part sales. It's extremely hard. It's tense times. I think maybe one thing that's on our side is these are cars. These aren't nightclubs. These are important. That we need people to be able to travel around. Everyone is conscious of what's happening economy wise, and they're keen to try and look at getting things sorted. And I think the motor industry will, as they are extremely good at doing historically, will figure out the ways of adapting, and hopefully this they were talking about we've hit the spike and we're on the downward trend now. Well, hopefully that can continue. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if we find ourselves very much going down the route of face masks for this unlock procedure. The ability to reduce your ability to spread it to others is gonna be nearly as good as a lockdown, I imagine. So I'm hoping to see the government start steering in that direction. And I saw last night, Boris started to mention it, and as we've seen with these daily briefings or near daily briefings, the government seems to go down the route of just giving us little hints as to how they're going to steer things, and I think that's a really good way of us being able to unlock. And as soon as people start going to work again and what have you, and cars start being driven, then I think those forward-looking garages, particularly that have invested in training and equipment and what have you, will be in a very good position for moving forward. I think unfortunately there might be a bit of an adjustment to the number of garages that are in the industry long term. I think that is a distinct possibility, but that does potentially mean there's some good opportunities out there for others.
Well, there's, even if there was some consolidation in the years to come, through the garage industry, and I think you were seeing some of that anyway. There's certain people that I knew in the industry, not naming names, but, garage owners that have probably been doing it 40, 50 years, and, technology was kind of more complicated, investment in equipment. It's just something that they just weren't interested in any longer. So they were selling off the garages for, to other garage groups or owners, or they were turning them into houses and to developers for houses and flats. So, that was naturally happening anyway. But I think this will accelerate that, because I think a lot of people will look at this and go, well, we've probably just taken a massive hit financially, and, do I want to now go and spend another 3, 4, 5 years building it back up to where I've got, because I know what's coming in the future, you know, ADAS, hybrid vehicles, all this sort of stuff. Actually, if I want to make some real money in the future, I'm probably going to have to spend 100 grand on my business to take full advantage of that, you know. So there may be a few people that make a decision in terms of not tuck tail and run, but, you know, look at what they've got at the moment and go, well, I'm happy with that. Thanks very much, automotive industry, but I'm off, you know. So, you know, I think there will be some of that goes on over the coming years potentially. So, but the reality is the vehicle park's still growing. So less garages means less competition, means more opportunity for the ones that are left, doesn't it? You know, and the ones that are doing it bigger and better and thinking about creative solutions like yourself, like the platform you guys offer, like you alluded to earlier, they're going to be in the best position, you know, to take full advantage of that opportunity. And in not only my opinion, but most people that I'm talking to in the sector at the moment that, you know, are specialists in their field. So, I know you deal with other businesses abroad, you know, and obviously part of your background was very much over in Asia. You know, how's things been over there? You know, I assume you still have a lot of contacts and that over in China and Asia. So,
yeah, well, I don't have a lot going on immediately at the moment with China, but I've got a lot of friends over there and what have you. But really, what I know about China, I see in the news. But Vietnam, however, that's a different story. That's where my family are at the moment, and you know, I'm rather looking forward to be able to jump on a plane as soon as possible. But you know, Vietnam's doing extremely well. They're now. My daughter's going back to school on Monday. Next week they hit the lockdown very heavily, and you know, they are all big mask wearers, and you know, whether there's anything in this temperature related thing or not, I genuinely have no idea, but they've weathered that storm wonderfully, which were nerve-wracking times. So, you know, we'll probably be seeing Asia bounce back a little bit earlier, and parts of Europe we've got some translation projects at the moment going on, and there's parts of Europe that are doing very well as well, and it's them that are asking for the translated content. So you know, it seems to be a mixed bag across the world, but people are adapting.
But there are some positive signs, which is the good news piece, isn't it? So
yeah, there definitely are.
Good. So, well, not to dwell too much on the COVID-19 point, let's talk about some more positive stuff. Like I said, I've known Ben for a good few years now, and it's something that I've been keeping a keen eye on his platform that as it's been developing. And as for many of you who know us, or what we're known for is our contract vehicle technicians across the UK. So today's a bit of an announcement for us that we've looked at the opportunity. So something that's been kicking around our boardroom now for a good 6 months, and I think we were talking about this probably back end of last year, Ben, beginning of last year, and with the office move, and we had Brexit, election, IR35, now COVID-19. Every month seems to have been a curveball thrown at us, but you know, actually in the downtime, we've seen this as a positive. Well, Autotech Recruit seen this as a positive opportunity to actually implement some of the things that we've been wanting to do for a long time now. With a lot of our vehicle technicians obviously furloughed or sat at home in their own limited businesses, we felt it was right to offer them an opportunity to upskill themselves. It was something we wanted to do anyway, but with the emerging need for electrical and hybrid technicians moving forward is only going to get greater. We just saw your platform as a prime opportunity. So the announcement today is, you know, happy to say that Autotech Recruit and our virtual academy have teamed up. We have taken on a substantial amount of licenses with Ben that we're going to be offering out to an initial 250 of our contractors We have about 450 plus contractors in our network, but we're taking on an initial 250 and investing in 250 licenses from Ben, so we can give our contractors the opportunity to do some learning from home. Ben's very kindly going to give us a demo now, which Ben has put together, white labeled a product for us. For a lot of you that know us, we have Autotech Recruit, but we also have Autotech Training and Autotech Apprentice in the Autotech group of companies. So what Ben's going to demonstrate to you now is Autotech Training, and just give you a brief overview of some of the content and how the platform works, and hopefully see what we're all trying to achieve with this great platform Ben's got. So over to you, Ben.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much, Gav. Yeah, we're very excited to be working with yourselves too. It's I had a feeling we were onto something when we met the first time. You know, there's a lot of synergy between our thought processes, so it's nice that we're doing something commercially together now. You know, over the long term.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll give you a little screen share first of all. So let's see if we can get that going. Okay, so you should be seeing our website at the moment. Can you confirm that's the case, Gav?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we're at the our virtualacademy.com website, where it's possible to find out all of the general details about what we do and the course content that we've got on the site. Pricing, there's a great free trial on there. There's about 2.5 hours worth of free content available on that free trial. We've got some diesel diagnostic stuff, some air conditioning fundamental stuff, and some EV and hybrid high voltage charging information on there. And once you've worked your way through that little lot, you can achieve a certificate as well. So that's a nice thing to keep people out of mischief during the lockdown as well, and get a chance to see for themselves what they think of what we do. But to move on to the platform itself, you know, you'd click sign in and you'd go to our sign in page, but as you've said, we've white labeled the platform for you. So so here is your version of the login page. Straightforward process. You have a username and a password, and as long as you know your username and your password, as long as you're on the internet, you're going to be able to gain access to your account. So here we are. We've just signed in. If we'd have signed in for the first time, we'd get a little introduction from myself, introducing the platform and giving a bit of basic training around how to use the platform.
The training courses.
But that's enough of that. So once we're in the platform, then you know there's a few different areas that it's possible to go to. The training centre is where the content is found, and that's arguably one of the more exciting parts of it, unless you're managing teams, and then it's probably the reporting side of things. But from a content perspective, we've got a great deal of content on the site at the moment, as I mentioned to you previously. Here's the content list that we've currently got, and obviously on a demo like this, I can't possibly take you through all of the vids. It wouldn't be doing my business much good either. But we've got a big suite on the fundamentals of electricity first of all, then start introducing people into the concept of oscilloscopes. And we've got a few subjects that are starting to take electrics a little bit further in. Then we start bringing in some finer details around oscilloscope usage. We've got some measurement sections there. Here's a couple of our communication ones. This is the suite that we'll see bolstered over the next few months.
Yeah.
Then we go into our battery suite. Here's this last suite of content that's just been released. Then over into engine management, petrol, big suite on emissions analysis and understanding full gas analysis. Diesel, big suite on diesel and diesel diagnostics and chassis areas, such as ABS and tyres and what have you. And then we've got a decent suite on hybrid and an electric vehicle. This is all cross-mapped and covers off the standards associated to both level 2 and level 3 IMI EV and hybrid. And so with an additional assessment, it's possible to be able to achieve a higher level certificate.
I think that's really important, isn't it, Ben, in terms of what you're offering there? Because I'm not aware of anybody else that can offer what you offer with around with that being is it QAI? Is it with the IMI or the terminology?
Well, this is that suite as a separate product is the full level 3 EV and hybrid qualification, and then we've also got a variant which is a hybrid and EV awareness suite, and that's about 2.5 hours worth of content, really just to make people know what the crack is regarding the safety implications and walking into a workshop when high voltage work is taking place. So the awareness isn't so much there for actually being able to fix the vehicles. It's more about being competent around them and being able to communicate with our customers around them too, because there's a lot of misinformation which is out there. And then an area a couple of years ago, we had a big a request associated to aircon, and we've got a big suite on aircon as well, and that little lot is also cross-mapped into a level 3 IMI air conditioning qualification as well. And so we've got a few different strings to our bow to be able to deliver certified or certificated learning, as well as conventional learning where you can simply access it on the internet and develop yourself and your team. So that was the different topics that we've got on the site right now. We release on average around 1 video every week and a half. Sometimes we release chunks, and so sometimes it can be a month until we do a content release or whatever, but on average about a week and a half and a new video comes out. So there's always new stuff available to learn. And then navigating through the training center, we've got these different top tier sections, and let's say we're interested in something associated to hybrid and EV, so we enter the hybrid and EV section. Then we've got these subsections as to how we've decided to tackle it. So a good introduction, there's a good hour's worth of content, just getting the terminology right, making sure people understand the lingo around what we're going to be talking about when we move into the more complex subjects. Safety, of course, being a big important subject. So we've got a decent suite that covers off various different points, starting off with things like health conditions before you work on a hybrid vehicle, the implications of ready mode, electrocution, how to avoid how to accurately measure electricity when a system is isolated. The list really goes on. So we've got a broad range, to say the least.
And certainly from our point of view, knowing and speaking to people in the industry, and certainly through some of the committee or the should I say the trade associations that I work with, insurance for a lot of garage owners is going to be a big player in this moving forward. That's what's going to drive a lot of this learning, because more and more electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles that are going to be entering into garages, insurance companies are going to be driving. So, well, okay, how competent are your staff to actually be dealing with this stuff? Because otherwise you're going to underwrite your public liability and everything out on your employer's liability and that, because if your staff aren't qualified to even know how to safely discharge an electric vehicle, well, why would I be writing an insurance policy if there's every chance he's going to fry himself and potentially kill themselves? So there's a big driver in this, and we were obviously aware of this now. It is something that's been on our radar, because 400 in our peak up to 450 contract vehicle technicians and MOT testers moving around the UK, going into various different garages on a daily basis. They're starting to come across these vehicles more and more, and remotely we have a responsibility to our contractors to not only try and safeguard and help them with their knowledge, but I'd like to think that actually sort of grabbing this by the scruff of the neck and trying to lead this in a certain way to say, well, in some cases, if we can get to a point by the end of this year where we've got 450 people all qualified and educated on hybrid and electric awareness, then I think that's a bold statement to be putting out there in the industry, that any of our customers moving forward know that all of our contractors are going to certainly comply with any insurance regulations that might be coming up in the future around hybrid electric vehicles. And that's before we even start getting onto subjects like ADAS and stuff like that are going to be emerging things as well in the future. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. The implications around hybrid and electric vehicle are massive, and possibly ADAS are bigger still. So that's very much a suite that we're looking forward to progressing on to. The current plan, funnily enough, is after communication. That's when we hit ADAS. It's a big deal. Fixing these vehicles is not a straightforward process, and there are some massive safety implications around it. And people genuinely need to know. Electric vehicles are definitely not going away. So yeah, it's a great way to make sure people are competent, and it fits back to that point I raised earlier regarding this term that we use called relearning on demand.
Yeah.
The thing is many workshops don't actually see hybrid and electric vehicles very much at this stage, and that does mean that if you went off and you got your qualification, if you were one of the lucky few to have received the training, well, if a couple of years has gone by until you start having to play with orange components on a high voltage vehicle, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking, because who can remember all of that information straight away? Who can locate their notes, etc. Whereas if you can spin it up and remind yourself when you need to, then that's great. So it's quite a powerful boom. So I'll just show you. Oh, I'm sorry, Gav.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you say, with that, off the back of that, it was a nice segue into, do you want to show us perhaps one of the videos that,
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll just give it a few 30 seconds or whatever. But here we are. We've got one of our videos starting off.
Hi, and welcome to this chapter on an introduction into the operation of permanent magnet synchronous motors, which are found on most, if not all, of the hybrid vehicles out there. During this chapter, we'll cover the rotor, the bit that rotates, the stator, the bit that is stationary, and the control circuit, which is found inside the inverter. As this is an introduction into the operation of the permanent magnet synchronous motor, we will be explaining a slightly simplified version, but nevertheless, it will be more than enough for you to appreciate how it works. The permanent magnet synchronous motor, or PMSM as it is sometimes known, is a brushless motor. Now, most conventional motors, such as those used as starter motors, wiper motors, and power window motors, have brushes and a commutator to enable current to flow through the windings which make up their rotors. But there is a distinct problem with this design, and that is the fact that the brushes and the commutator wear during operation, and so they're considered their weak points.
Yeah. Okay, there's just a little teaser associated to one of our videos, but it gives you a decent flavour. All of our content is pretty much like that, but of course script adjusted and content adjusted depending upon the subject that we're talking about. So the platform itself we've got this content, as we can see. We've got an area where we're able to store our personal favorites if we've got any favorites in there, and we've got this My Assignments section, which is a recent release, a recent release platform update, that is. So this now answers some of the questions that a few of our customers have had over the years, where they'd quite like to be able to allocate dedicated training to different members of their team, and allocate their training time as sensibly as they're possibly able to do. So this is where a manager of an account is able to allocate a certain amount of training to different members of staff. And in the My Assignments section, this is where you find out what you've been allocated by your manager, and these can be the tasks that you're supposed to work your way through. But all of the content that we produce gets released and chucked into this My Courses area for everyone to be able to look at as and when they so choose.
Yeah.
So if we then go back home, we're now on the primary page. So we've got a few different ways of navigating around the site, much like any other website. In many ways, we can navigate through working our way through these differing tiles at the top here. Equally, we've got these key 8 buttons. So, the training center is where we went to a second ago. My report card. So this is where me, the user, is able to have a look and see what progress I've actually made on the site. So far with this demo account, I've just touched on these 2 videos here, and these are being listed because we're looking at the complete and in progress content. But if we change that setting to all, we can then see what content we've got to aim our target at and work our way through. As with all of these reports, it's possible to filter them and export them to your heart's content, so it ticks the box of some of our corporate customers as well. And it's useful, the report card, just on the grounds that who can remember what videos they watched 6 months ago, so it just gives people a chance to be able to keep track of what's going on. Then we've got a My Notes section. So when we spin up a video, I don't know if you'd have seen it before, but we had our video window initially, and on the left-hand side there was a little My Notes tag. So that means that when you're halfway through a video, if a particularly salient point comes up and it's relevant to you, means something to you, then you can click on that little tab, write the note in while you're watching that video live. You don't need to click save, it will save automatically, and then that note will be embedded into that video forever for you, unless you ask us to clear it. And equally, if you go into the My Notes section, then you have a chronological log of all of the notes that you've taken, and you can click on that log and you can take yourself straight back into that video as well. So it's quite a nice tool, because my handwriting is absolutely shocking, and I know that if I'm on a training course and I'm writing at Mach 10, if I try and read my notes 6 months later, I have a right horror story on my hands, whereas something like this ticks that box very nicely and makes life easier for all of us.
And when you're on a face-to-face training course, you can never ask the trainer to pause, whereas on here you can pause the video, write your notes, and then carry on, so you're not missing anything. So absolutely
being able to do that, or watch a point a second time, is also very useful. I mean, in addition to that, if you get to the end of a suite of content and you've still got some technical questions around it, then we've got a help section embedded on the site as well. So this help section allows our customers to be able to communicate to our writing team, or it's normally the person that wrote the course, and then they can send a message through, and that makes it to the writer, and the writer normally picks up the phone and fills in any gaps if there are any gaps. It isn't an area that gets heavily used, because our content is pretty comprehensive. If you're making a video, you want to make sure that by the time you get to the end of the video, someone understands what you're talking about, and hopefully there aren't too many additional questions. But nonetheless, being able to do that is extremely useful. And one of the things that was a big driver in what we were looking to do in the first place is make sure that even though we are fundamentally an internet company, we want our customers to know that we are a bunch of human beings behind that web page, and we are there. So, you know, we've got a great customer support department which looks after our customers too from a platform management perspective. And then, you know, from a technical perspective, we're always there to help where possible, because, you know, the more feedback we get and the more holes we understand in people's knowledge, then the next step we know is okay, we've got a requirement to fill that gap, and that's exactly what we can do. So we got an integrated calendar in there. So for larger organisations that want to manage their training commitments across their whole team and filter the calendar as appropriate, they can do so. We've got a file vault. So this is where we issue any paper-based documents to our customers, really, you know. So we've got a range of different things, ranging from the current content list. So if you want a reminder of what the latest one is, you can always click on that and download it, and away you go. You've got that content list that I showed you before. There's various different bits and pieces. You know, it wasn't so long ago that a customer said that they really wanted to promote that they were using our virtual academy to their customers, and asked us if we could make a poster that would be suitable for the reception area. And that's exactly what we did. So we made a few different variants depending upon what printers the customers have got access to, but we put it up there. We made it specifically for that one customer, and then did a little marketing piece to tell the rest of our customers away you go. And now once in a blue moon, I'll be walking into a garage reception and I see this lovely poster on the wall. And, you know, promoting training is a big deal. You know, one of the studies that was conducted, I think it was early last year now, was talking about how do we give customers confidence that when they bring their cars into the independent workshop, that their cars are going to be appropriately looked after. And training was the one that came straight out on top, you know. So promoting the fact that you are investing in training is a very good thing, and putting your certificates up on the reception wall doesn't hurt either if your reception can accommodate that sort of thing, which leads me on to certificates. So the system,
I'll just add a point on that as well, and because I think just before GDPR was coming in, before we cleaned up our database, we had 11,500 vehicle technician and MOT tester data on our database. And actually, we took the opportunity to survey those 11,500 people, and we took the opportunity to record those 11,500 people, and what come back from it was we asked, one of the questions we asked those people was, do you what was the reason why you left your previous job? And the reason over 70% of those people come back was for broken promises on training around their employers. You know, that was the reason why they left their job. Now, actually, when you pose the same question to employers, actually, you know, why do you think your employee left you? You know, because they were mercenary, and what, if 50p an hour more is a general phrase or comment I get back from some people. You know, it's actually training probably comes down, you know, and I'm talking the industry as a whole, because, you know, there are some people out there that are very good at what they do, and training their staff is number one. It's not all about pay and the other benefits. It's about training and investing in their employees. But I'm talking as an industry overall. Again, I think those people that do invest, again, are the minority, not the majority. So, you know, it was interesting, out of 11,500 vehicle technicians, over 70% of them come back and said, actually, the reason I left my job, and probably the job before that and the job before that as well, was because I was told I could become an ATA Master Tech. I was told that I'd become an MOT tester. I was told that and actually, when you ask them, the vast majority of them saying, do you know what, when I turned up for work, I've never even had a health and safety briefing. I couldn't even tell you where the eye wash is kept, or where the first aid box is kept, or where the accident book is kept. You know, and these are people that have worked there for nearly 2 years in fundamentally an industrial environment, and we're asking them to be mucking around on vehicles with hybrid technology and batteries in there that can basically kill them in an instant, you know. Which I find slightly concerning, you know. So yeah, you know.
Yeah. I mean, fixing cars is outrageously hard, and it is one of those points that sometimes gets overlooked, by one or two in the industry. And we do really need to support our technicians to be able to do the job. And it's not very rewarding if you're having to make a few intelligent guesses in a diagnostic process as opposed to really knowing what you're on about. And we do need to help our technicians stay up to date. Plus, you mention it from a job retention perspective. If we've got 7,500 garages out there that have lost technicians, or whatever, a significant number that have lost technicians through lack of training, well, there was there's a commercial side to that as well, isn't there? Finding new technicians is extremely hard to do. It's limiting the capacity of your workshop, and recruiting a new member of staff and getting them up to speed is not a cheap process either. So it's a much more win-win basis all round to develop and look after our teams and get them where they need to be.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Yeah. Maybe apologies for interrupting, but I thought it was a valid point to raise that it's we seem to be poles apart. There's a big disconnect in terms of what employers actually perceive and what employees actually want. Employers think money. Employees are thinking about training and progressing themselves, and there's a clear disconnect between, I think some employers' reality of what the actual employment marketplace is, what's going on in the marketplace at the moment with employment. And it's one of the things I talk about a lot is industry, considering we work on so many highly advanced vehicles and technology, in some ways we're still very archaic in our way of thinking about how we engage with our staff and employ our staff and train our staff. And there's other industries that are out there doing it bigger and better, and have been doing it bigger and better for a lot longer. And ultimately, they're the ones that are the attractive industries that are getting the cream of the crop. You walk past, we're creating some fantastically amazing vehicles and technology, but sometimes we scratch beneath the surface. It can be seen as a little bit of a facade sometimes. I think there's, to get out of the recruitment issues and the employment issues that we have in our sector at the moment, and who knows, the current climate of what's going on may create opportunities for our industry to re-engage with the skill and the people that we need in the industry to move it forward. But that's only going to happen if people are thinking with the right mindset, in terms of, well, I can go out there and pay an individual good money, but it's what else comes with that to keep that employee engaged, retained, so I can get my return on investment from them. It's not just about going, there's a massive salary, now I'm going to work you like a dog, so, because those days are gone. There's so much choice for people out there now. And part of training and part of these things, hence why we're doing it for our contractors, and they're not even employed by us, they don't even work for us, so we've recognized we're investing tens of thousands of pounds a year in this, not only to make sure our customers are getting the best experience they can with the best knowledge from our technicians as they can, so they're competent and capable, but it's obviously listening to our contractors and allowing them to have a platform like this to learn from.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, developing who we've got in the industry at the moment is hugely important, and also attracting the right talent in the first place too, as you well say. And I think the motor industry misses a trick in some areas, because the motor industry is quite an attractive place to work, to say the least. I mean, especially if you've got a bit of a passion for cars. I mean, it's very interesting. There's something new to learn every day. You're rarely doing the same thing day in, day out. It's you know, there's a broad range of skill sets associated to it. It's you know, it's a great industry. I certainly have no regrets about my apprenticeship and getting into the motor industry in the first place. And you know, let's start bringing some good ones in.
Cool.
So yeah, so we've got a fair old suite of certificates. So once you've completed a certain number of chapters, then that'll trigger certificates, which can then be printed off. It's saved electronically as well, of course, but can go into your personnel folder. We've got what else have we got? So we've got a couple of sections down here as well. So we've got this tracker, which is monitoring yourself. So you've got an idea, you know, what you've been watching historically. So you've got your quick links to be able to go in. Equally, we've got a leaderboard challenge here. So this is a little bit of introducing gamification into the system, where it's possible for different organisations to be able to create competitions within the business. So as learners complete various different tasks, you know, there's things like bonuses associated to watching a video twice, or bonuses associated to making sure you start off with the fundamentals of electricity, because you know, really every single subject that we have on the site pretty much requires you to understand that. So you need to start off there. So we're able to sort of steer our users in the route of doing certain tasks which are ultimately beneficial for themselves, and add a bit of competition in there. And you know, there's it's not many technicians out there that I know that aren't competitive, to say the least. So I'm looking forward to us developing that further and bringing in some nice gamification elements to the platform. We've got a section. I'll just make a point of that. I see we've got a tweak there. That's one tweak we've got to do for you before we roll that out, but that'll be a 2-minute job. So then over here, so we've got a search facility. So you know, if you want to learn about a certain subject, or perhaps we mention a term in one of our videos and you're not quite sure what that term means, well, if we haven't expanded on that term, that'll be because we've already got a course associated to it. Because again, that's one of the beauties of online, is we don't have to say the same thing twice ever. And that's what we do. So you know, we put in PWM. I wonder what the hell PWM is. Click on PWM, and that's going to take us straight to the video. 10 minutes later, you're going to know what you need to know around that subject. So the search facility is great. Managers are able to administrate the system and add and remove users too. So we've got the capability around that. We've got an announcement section which is embedded in there, so it's possible to communicate to large numbers of the team when the system logs in. Another route to the training center, another route to favorites, and then over on the right hand side here, these 3 lines are what the platform calls the hamburger. Interestingly, the hamburger's evolved a little bit over a recent update, but nonetheless, you'd never guess this was an American platform using a term like hamburger. But you hover over that, and then that gives you some routes to some additional functionality inside here too. So you know, the management tools allows you to make some changes to the location. So this area that we're in at the moment is the Autotech Recruit location. We've got reporting capability, which creates a broad range of courses, from automatic emails to certificate progress reports, overall usage reports, and then we can drill into the detail using the report cards function into the training activity of any individual member of the team as well. So we've got some quite high-end capability embedded into this, which works well for our smaller customers as well as our large organisation clients such as yourselves. I've mentioned the help function, and then to end it all, we end up with sign out and sign out takes us back to our login page. That'll be the page which is linked into your website, wherever you so choose. And there's a quick-ish demo for you on what the site looks like. So I'm now going to click stop share and
I think
get back to our original meeting.
Yeah, and I think I'm not going to obviously depending on what people want and the amount of information, but to be honest, we only spoke about this or agreed the commercials on this probably back in the last week, and you've quite quickly made that look the way you need it to look within a week, which firstly, thanks for doing that, and fair play to making it look as good as it does in that amount of time with everything else you've got going on at the moment. So that's one of the things we liked about it. It was very adaptable, it was very easy, the way you've set it up, it's very flexible for us to interact with it and change it, and you can adapt it to however we want it to be, and that's the beauty of it. Sometimes when you go with software systems and websites and stuff like that, it can be quite not only sometimes cumbersome and hard to navigate around, which yours certainly isn't. It's very simple, but also it can be quite draconian in some ways, in that you're not allowed to do this, you can't do this, and a lot of that stuff's been clearly thought through and it already either exists, or if it doesn't, then you can quite quickly create it and make it do it that way, which is the beauty of that platform. So
yeah, that's right. As long as we can understand exactly what the requirement, what the client's requirement is, then it's very adaptable, and we tend to be able to deliver exactly what we need to. So yeah, that was probably the most detailed run through I've done since we've plumbed it up. So I'm pleased nothing fell over, and we've got one change to make for you. But as I say, 5 minutes after this, we'll have it nailed.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks so much for today, Ben. Really appreciate it. I think it not only is it a fantastic platform you've got. And it's something like I said before, we've been wanting to do for a while, just with everything else that's been going on for us as a business. Certainly over the last 6 months with office moves and everything else, there's always been something else at the top of the list to try and do. But I think certainly with this time, it's allowed us to get this up and running, invest in our technicians, give them what they need to make sure they're best placed to be out there, doing the right job, not only for our clients, but equally keeping them safe and keeping investing in their knowledge, which is what we're all about as a business. And and hopefully for our contractors, if any of you are watching this today, we will be in touch in the coming days, where you'll start receiving your logins for this and start having a play with it. And please feedback to us. We want your feedback to see what you think, and I'm sure Ben's keen to hear what you say about it as well. And any clients that may be watching this, and like I said, it's adaptable for many different organisations with the automotive sector, then please feel free to contact Ben directly, because I know he's extremely busy at the moment, but he's I'm sure he's
I like busy.
He's got plenty of capacity and want to keep growing, and I think it's probably one of the best things I've seen, certainly been launched in the automotive industry in the last few years, without a doubt. So cheers to that, Ben. Really appreciate it. And
my pleasure.
And thanks for joining us today. And speak to you soon. All right.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for your kind words, Gav. Most appreciated.